Crimes of Grindelwald is finally here. After doing a review on the first film, predicting what I thought was going to happen very early on, doing 3 trailer breakdowns, and watching the first film the day before the premiere, you could say I was pretty ready for this movie. The other Fantastic Beasts videos got a lot of good feedback, and I got too many messages and tweets to count asking me to do a review on the film. So let's do it. I'm going to break this video into 2 parts. The first part will be spoiler free for those who haven't seen the film yet, and the second part, the main chunk of the video, will be with spoilers along with explanations, Easter eggs to the original books and movies, and all that good stuff. So let's get started. So, the spoiler-free review. This film, plain and simple, did not feel like a Harry Potter movie. It might have been written by J.K. Rowling, but it didn't have the happy vibe we've become so accustomed to when we hear the Harry Potter music. This film was dark, it had many adult themes, and most young kids probably wouldn't be able to follow the plot. Now, is that a bad thing? Hell no, at least not for me. I like this dark and gritty theme that Rowling has going on. It was thrilling, scary at times, and really made you think and feel. Now, of course, the original series always had some dark moments, but it always ended on a good note and had a positive feeling when you finished. This was not the case with the Crimes of Grindelwald. The first Fantastic Beasts film was much more like the original series, having lighthearted themes and moments that overpowered the dark. But they went full Empire Strikes Back here, making the second movie the darkest one so far. As I said, Rowling wrote this story and put it in the hands of David Yates as the director, who is no stranger to Harry Potter. He directed the final 4 films in the original series, as well as the first Fantastic Beasts movie. The cinematography in this was fantastic. Yates and the cinematographer did such a great job. There was one shot with a water reflection that panned up, which, being a film student, I really appreciated. My favorite part of this film was by far Grindelwald. We saw very little of Johnny Depp in this role in the first film, as he only appeared for a brief second in the beginning and had a very short scene at the end. I was all for Depp playing him despite the scandals going on. He played Grindelwald brilliantly. Here, Grindelwald isn't just another Voldemort, but has much more going on in his mind. He had a reason for his madness, which I really liked. The most prominent new characters that we were introduced to in this movie were Leta Lestrange and Theseus Scamander, both of whom were briefly mentioned in the first film. Both were great characters that added a lot to the story, and I'll leave the rest about them for the spoiler part of the review. We also got our first look at young Dumbledore, played by Jude Law, and he did a magnificent job. He was so quick-witted, and he had the perfect savage attitude that we've seen Dumbledore have in the properties that he's been in before. The only thing weird about this though is that in the Chamber of Secrets we see a Dumbledore that is a few years older than Jude Law's Dumbledore, and man did he age fast. In Crimes of Grindelwald, we see that even before Fudge, the Ministry and the Minister of Magic is threatened by Dumbledore and reluctant to take his advice. Hector Foley, the Minister of Magic here, has deep mistrust for Albus. This film also introduces us to many new places, expanding the universe of Harry Potter even farther. We got to see the French Ministry of Magic, we saw our first wizarding circus, and we even got to go back to the Ministry of Magic in London for one scene. There were also many new beasts, my favorite being the Zuwu. The old beasts return as well, including my favorite from the last movie, the Niffler, and this time he's joined by a bunch of baby Nifflers, which was adorable. Tina, Jacob, and Queenie all return and are great as always, especially Jacob. He really cracks me up. Newt is as awkward and uncomfortable as ever, which I love to see. It really sets him apart from the other characters and makes him stand out, which is appropriate because he's our main hero in this series of films. In this film, however, Credence probably plays the biggest role, and the film is all about discovering his past and where he came from. He's the string that ties all of these characters together, from Newt and the gang, to Dumbledore, to Grindelwald, to Leta, to Nagini, to the Minister of Magic, and on top of that, the Ministry Orders. He's at the center of this plot, and Ezra Miller did a fantastic job as always. One of my biggest complaints in this film was that it's very hard to understand what's going on if you haven't read the original 7 books or seen the last movie. I had many people message me saying that they didn't understand what was going on. All in all, would I recommend going to see it? Yes, I would, especially if you're a Harry Potter fan. I definitely recommend rewatching the first film before you go though. Now, it's time for the spoiler review, so here's your warning. If you don't want anything spoiled, turn this off right now, and make sure you come back after you see the movie, because I'm going to be explaining Easter eggs, breaking it down, and giving my thoughts with spoilers. The opening of the film was incredible. This scene is what set the dark tone that the rest of the movie would have. We see people drown, we see them get eaten by snakes, thrown out of a carriage in the sky, and we even see that they result to taking who they thought was Grindelwald's tongue out. It's some dark stuff, and was a really exciting way to start the film off. As I said, my favorite part of the film was Grindelwald. He's not just evil for the hell of it. He has a heart. He literally says that he doesn't hate the Muggles during his speech. And this is something that you would never hear Voldemort say, as he despised them. Grindelwald is not just another Voldemort. In one scene, he cuts off one of his followers when they talk about destroying the Muggles, and he explains to him his priorities and how it's for the greater good. It's not just about killing Muggles and taking control of them. Grindelwald knows of World War II and sees the destruction that Muggles bring to the world. He literally feels for his kind and thinks that these Muggles will turn on them if they don't act and show their strength before that happens. I thought it was really cool that Rowling incorporated our real history to influence the wizarding world, even showing the Hiroshima bombing. Grindelwald is plain and simple a genius. Every move he makes is strategic and brilliant. One scene that stands out to me is when one of his followers was shot down at his meeting after she tried to attack an Auror, and Grindelwald goes on to make her a martyr. I also loved how he was able to manipulate the guards while he was imprisoned in America. This is why they thought they had to cut his tongue out, so that he wouldn't finesse anyone else. We hear officials in the British Ministry of Magic discuss how more and more people are joining his cause. There's one scene where he's faced with killing a baby, and you see him think about it, but he decides that it's necessary and for the greater good. I think it's interesting though that he couldn't watch it and actually left the room while the baby was being killed. Grindelwald's relationship with Dumbledore got expanded on past what we got in the Deathly Hallows, when here we learned of their blood pact. We got a flashback of the two who were actually played by the actors from the Deathly Hallows. Here we see them make the blood pact and put it in a silver vial that Grindelwald carries around with him. I really like that Grindelwald always kept it with him, because it shows that he still cares about Dumbledore, putting to rest the people saying that he didn't care about Albus and that he just used him. Although it's clear that Albus cares a great deal more for him than he does for Albus. One thing weird about this scene is that we saw this flashback of the blood pack in the Mirror of Erised, and this isn't normally how it works. It's supposed to show you what you want and can't have, not the past. But I guess you could argue that he desires that moment, or rather how the two felt about each other in that moment. But now we know why Dumbledore can't go after Grindelwald, and we learn why he put off the fight for so long. We know from the original series that they eventually do fight in what's considered one of the most epic battles in wizarding history. This means that Newt and Dumbledore will find a way to destroy the blood pack, just as they were talking about at the end of the film. This also changes the meaning of what Dumbledore meant when he said he couldn't go after Grindelwald. Many people, including myself, thought that he put off the fight because he loved Grindelwald and didn't want to face him, which could still be the case, but the main reason now is the blood pact. The film had so many plot twists, it was ridiculous. The first one was the fact that Leda, the person who's supposed to be in love with Newt, is engaged to his brother Theseus, which I did not see coming. Leda is another big character in the film that ties everything together, so much so that I'm actually making a video on just her life after this one. She and Credence's past sort of ties over in a very unlikely and tragic way. Zoe Kravitz, the actress that portrays Leda, brought so much emotion to this character and really made her stand out as one of my favorites. I love the way that Rowling paralleled Dumbledore and Leda's backstory, with the two losing their younger sibling and blaming themselves for it. Dumbledore lives with the guilt that he might have been the one to shoot the spell that killed his little sister, and if not that, he was responsible for the duel starting that killed her. And Leda feels the same thing, having killed her little brother on the boat to America. But I'll discuss that in more detail on my video for just Leda. The biggest twist in the film, in my opinion, was the reveal of who Credence is at the end. Grindelwald tells him that he's a Dumbledore. Now, is this true? This would explain why Grindelwald thought that he was the only one that could kill Albus, and it's simply because Credence shares the same blood as him. But there's a good chance that he's lying, and he just told Credence that to keep him on his side, because as Queenie told him, Credence didn't know whether or not he made the right choice. Now, is it possible? Yes, it is. You look at Mr. Dumbledore, Albus's father. He was a loose cannon. He killed 3 Muggle boys when they went after his daughter. It's clear that he doesn't always make the right choices. So is it possible that he had an affair? Yes, it's very possible. With their son's father in Azkaban, it's very likely that she wanted a new life for the two of them. This might have led her to take Credence on the boat to America, which of course is where he was switched. Now, do I think it's true? Honestly, I don't. I think Grindelwald is lying, and I think it's another scheme to manipulate Credence, and it wouldn't be the first time, because in the entire first movie, that's all he did. Just manipulate and take advantage of Credence. Credence also breaks Nagini's heart, going with Grindelwald, and the same goes with Queenie when she broke Jacob's heart. Both of these relationships I really liked. Nagini and Credence were great together, and Jacob and Queenie continue to be great together. One big disappointment I had in this movie was that we didn't get too much on Nagini. It was such a big reveal in the trailer, but then they hardly did anything with her. Most of her scenes, she was overshadowed by Credence. But we do know that Rowling likes to take it slow with her storytelling, so I'm sure we'll get more on Nagini in the films to come. And could Credence joining Grindelwald be the snapping point for Nagini to turn evil? I feel that would be an interesting path to take with her character. The final battle of the film was thrilling and reminded me of the final battle in the Order of the Phoenix. They had all of the characters come together for the fight, and seeing Nicholas Flamel in action was badass. One thing I noticed was that there were many scenes from the trailers that were cut. The scene where Lita is at some sort of party never showed up. Credence shooting out obscurial power while on the roof with Nagini wasn't in the movie. Dumbledore using his Deluminator never happened, which was probably replaced with him making fog spring up to cover him and Newt while they had their conversation. Also, the shot of Credence looking at the circus posters was cut as well. Maybe we'll get some of these with the bonus features when it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray. Now, some Easter eggs for the big Harry Potter fans that relate back to the original series. One of my favorites was the appearance of Professor McGonagall in the flashbacks. They even had her Scottish accent, but there's something off about this. She wasn't born until 1935, and this film takes place in 1927. I doubt they messed up because Rowling wrote this, but it wouldn't be the first time that they messed up her character in the films after the Quidditch plaque in the first movie. And the obvious answer to that is that it's her mother. But we know that's not true, because her mother secluded herself from the wizarding world after she fell in love with Minerva's muggle father. And I think that she looked way too young to be Minerva's grandmother. So this doesn't quite add up. I guess you could say that it's her cousin or something, but that's a bit of a stretch. My biggest fear with Warner Brothers diving into these prequels is that the Harry Potter universe will turn into Fox's X-Men universe, which has too many flaws to count. We've already seen somewhat of a slip up with the two different younger Dumbledores that don't match up. Hopefully they can correct things like this in the films to come. Now, some other Easter eggs. Polyjuice Potion is used several times. We see Newt use it so he can turn into his brother to get into the Ministry of Magic in France. We also see Grindelwald and Abernathy use it in the beginning to switch places. We hear Dumbledore discussing how one of his great-grandfathers had a phoenix, but it flew away when he died. Dumbledore, of course, gets his own phoenix named Fawkes in the original series. We hear Grindelwald say, "For the greater good." This is directly from the Deathly Hallows book, and Harry reads it in a letter that Dumbledore sent to Grindelwald. Grindelwald would go on to make this his slogan as he gains more and more power. Not only did we see Nicholas Flamel, but we even got to see the Sorcerer's Stone, or as they call it overseas, the Philosopher's Stone. Queenie uses a love potion on Jacob, something that was elaborated on the most in the Half-Blood Prince. Some interesting name drops includes Rosier, one of Grindelwald's accomplices. Her son, or possibly grandson, eventually becomes one of Voldemort's first Death Eaters. There was also the student who stood up for Dumbledore to the Minister of Magic named McLaggen. Again, his son, or possibly grandson, is eventually part of the Slug Club and tries out for Keeper on the Gryffindor Quidditch team and the Half-Blood Prince. In the final battle, Grindelwald uses Fiend Fire, one of the few things powerful enough to destroy a Horcrux. We saw this in the Deathly Hallows when the Room of Requirement was destroyed, and it actually ended up destroying the diadem as well. It's used in an interesting way here, as those who are loyal to Grindelwald don't get burned when they walk through. We also see the 3 unforgivable curses used a number of times. The green light appears pretty often, which of course is the color of the killing curse. We also see the Imperious Curse. This spell makes the person do the caster's bidding. It was used on a number of people including Queenie, although it was never directly specified that that's what it was. There's the mention of the Unbreakable Vow when Tina and Newt discuss Guzman having the marks from it on his hands. We saw Snape make the Unbreakable Vow in the Half-Blood Prince, and we learned that if you break the vow, then you die. At the end, we see Nurmengard, Grindelwald's hideout and prison. After Dumbledore defeats him, Grindelwald is locked in his own prison, which we saw in the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Overall, I thought this film was very well done, and I like the direction that this series is going. I'm excited to see what Rowling has in store for us next, because we still have 3 films to go in this 5-movie series. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media. Links for that will be down below. If you like this video, make sure you press that subscribe button to help grow the channel. I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons listed below. If you want to be listed on my next video, check out my Patreon. You'll be featured on the video and get a bunch of other rewards as well. Again, thank you so much for watching, and look out for more great videos on the way.